welcome to Toni Time. Well, I'm very happy you joined us today. I would like you to, if you're watching our show in the morning, go get your coffee. If it's after 5, go get your cocktail. And I'd like you to meet a lovely, wonderful gentleman who is going to be running for mayor. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you so much.
It's so good to have you here.
I'm anxious. I'm excited.
Yeah.
It's great.
So tell me, what brought you to run for mayor?
I just felt that, it's been a long time of the same thing, and I got the feeling like you've seen me at a lot of the different meetings.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like the citizens aren't being heard. The parking meter is probably the thing that motivated me the most, and then that helped me explore more areas that also need to be looked at. With the parking meters, it wasn't even close. It was 90 to 10 that said no parking meters, yet somehow we have parking meters downtown. So, so that pretty much, told me, 6,761 people said we don't want parking meters. 959 said we do want parking meters. But that wasn't even close, and yet we have them. So that really was the catalyst.
That kind of triggered you into saying, you know what? Yeah, I see you at the meetings.
I go to a lot of them.
Yeah.
And every time I'm just trying to get the people to be heard. That's all it is.
I know.
I was in the military for a long time, and that's why I joined the military, was to protect everybody's rights. And I really believe that our oath is to protect and defend the Constitution, support and defend it. And there's no expiration date on that. Every veteran will tell you the same thing. There's no expiration date.
Right,
It lasts forever.
Now, you joined the Air Force, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Tell the audience and I about, you went up pretty quick in rank, didn't you?
I did. I was driven, basically. I was really motivated. When I was a little boy, I wanted to go in the Air Force. I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That was my goal. And so I used to hang out with Staff Sergeant Henry in Sanford, where the post office, I don't know if it's still there, but there was the post office in Sanford, and there were the recruiting offices in there as well. I'd go see him. We'd go visit my grandparents every Saturday. And when my mom and my aunt, my grandmother, my sister and cousin would all go out shopping, my grandfather and I would have ice cream sandwiches, and then he'd fall asleep. So I'd go out back, jump the fence, go hang out with Sergeant Henry, and talk about the Air Force. And he was recruiting me even 10, 11 years old.
Wow.
And I couldn't wait. And then when I was 12, I got glasses. And I'll never forget his face. I walked in there, and Sergeant Henry looks at me and he said, "We need to talk." I said, "About what?" He said, "You can't be a pilot anymore." I said, "Why not?" He said, "Pilots can't wear glasses." And so that crushed me. I went down the way and I started talking to Marine Corps recruiter, because Sergeant Henry was like, "Well, you can still be a ground troop in the Air Force." I said, "No, thank you. I'll go do something else." And then I went to talk to Marines, and so then all my posters I had of all the fighter jets in my room, I took down, put Marine Corps stuff up. And I thought I was going to be a Marine for a while, but then my heart was in the Air Force. And I was a broadcaster. I was working at R96. It was a local radio station, and I was DJing school dances from the time I was 12. So it just kind of worked, and I became a combat journalist in the Air Force. I did radio and TV broadcasting, and so basically I just went from doing it locally to worldwide. And it was so much fun. I miss the Air Force every day. It was just really wonderful. I got to see so many places. I've seen the best and the worst that our world has to offer. And I've seen things that work, seen things that don't work. And I've seen what happens when a community comes together and really focuses its energy on what's important.
Yeah.
Like in Honduras, after Hurricane Mitch came through and tens of thousands of people died. Their capital was flooded. They had been throwing everything into the river for decades, and Mother Nature gave back what they gave to her. And it all came up. And I remember digging for people to help. One guy was digging with him to find his aunt's body because the mud had come up over the roof of the home, and so we were digging to try to recover her body. And things like that really shape your view, and it really lets you see what's important.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going in when I was 20, and I stayed in almost 13 years. My leg got busted up pretty badly, so I have a reminder of my service every day.
I'm sure, yeah. I have an odd question to ask you, which is the things that you've seen, the things that you've experienced, has that kind of jaded you in any way?
Jaded?
Jaded.
How so?
That, perhaps, say, for example, you got your leg hurt. and you had to leave something you loved.
Mm-hmm.
What did you take from what you experienced in the Air Force that now all the things you've seen,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of it not pretty,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're in everyday life,
Mm-hmm.
your emotions on this, how does that, do you say, oh, well, that's not that bad? I guess that's what I mean by jaded. Oh, you broke your arm, that's not too bad.
No, because everybody reacts to things differently.
Okay.
So you and I can break the exact same spot on our leg,
Yeah.
and it may affect you differently than it affects me.
Right.
It may affect my life differently than yours, depending on where you're at. Most people could have, what happened to me could happen to somebody else, and they could keep their career. But I was in the military, so I lost my career because of it. But what that does is, to steal a phrase from the Marine Corps, adapt, improvise, and overcome. That's what they live by. And every branch of the military teaches you that, where you've got to figure out how to get to your goal. Sometimes it's a straight line. Other times you've got to go way out and around and come back.
That's very true.
And being mayor wasn't my goal. My goal was simply to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I just wanted the people to be heard. And I felt that no matter what I said, no matter how I said it, it wasn't happening. So someone came up to me and said, the only way you can make a difference is from the inside. You're not going to control it from the outside, getting 3 minutes to speak or 5 minutes to speak at a time.
Right.
Because the council and the mayor get to speak unlimited, and they use a lot of that time to pontificate quite often. So that's when I said, okay, let me look into it. And I thought about it. And actually, the morning I went and picked up my papers, I still woke up that morning not sure I was going to run.
Wow.
Because I was just like, can I do more by keeping the city in check as a citizen, coming to the meetings?
Yeah.
Or can I do more from the inside? And because of that feeling that I was just being ignored, no matter what I came up with, I said, inside is going to definitely be it. So that morning when I woke up, I finally sat down and I just said, just do it.
Yeah.
And the support has been incredible. I can't even
great.
believe, I cannot believe people who've never met me are hugging me when they meet me, saying, thank you for running for mayor. That blows my mind. I'm like, boy, I don't know if my mom would support you. My mom would probably say, you're supporting my son. But no, actually, my mom's really supportive of it.
But you're born and raised in Maine.
Raised in Biddeford.
In Biddeford.
I went to St. Joseph's School through 8th grade, and then I went over to the high school and did my 4 years at Biddeford High School. My class was the first National School of Excellence class that we had in Biddeford.
Wow.
And that's why the schools are so important to me, because I look at our school ranking now, and it's really sad. I can't remember the exact number, but I think it was like 80 out of 120 in the state for our school system. Wow. That's horrific. And we know it's not the students, and the teachers get great reviews too. So where's the disconnect? We need to figure out, how do we give the best possible education to these students and give them the best foot in life? Because when they're trying to get into college, if the college looks and says, well, yeah, they're in the middle of their class at Biddeford High School, which is ranked 80 out of 120, that looks horrible.
Yeah.
Versus the student who's in one of the top 10 schools in the state and ranked even in the bottom, they're probably going to take the other student. And so we're doing a disservice to our students, and that's our future.
But how would you see yourself changing that?
Well, we have to look at the entire process.
Okay.
Part of it, I think, is there needs to be an audit of each department and figure out where's the money going. And part of that, too, is, I don't know if you realize this, but government, from federal government all the way down to the city, at the end of the fiscal year, they spend every last penny they can buying stuff that they may not need just because they're afraid to lose that amount out of their budget next year if they don't use it. We got to stop penalizing people for saving money.
Yeah.
If the school department can save $2 million,
Right.
why would we take that away from them next year? We give them the same amount. And if they can save again, then great. And then out of that money they save, we can buy other things that we need. And the school can use it. My nephew is actually in the school system right now. He's a senior. And he had classes that they didn't even have enough books so the students could take them home. How is that even possible with a $30+ million budget that the students don't have books? I would love to have the answer to that question.
Yeah.
And so that's why we need to look through everything. I mean, I can't give you a magic answer right now. We can't, there's no magic pill, but we have to look at it, we have to look at it objectively and say, listen, maybe we don't need this, this, and this. At the very least, our students need books. To me, that's a no-brainer. I mean, that's got to be, that's a basic tenet of school.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I want to look at and see, how can we give the tools to the teachers to make sure that our students are put on the right path so they can succeed? Because if they succeed and they come back to Biddeford, they're going to make Biddeford even better.
Yeah, true.
If they go to college and they come back, or they start a company here, or they start a company somewhere else and then move it here, they can create jobs. There's a lot of people from Biddeford that have built this community.
Oh, yeah.
My grandparents, my great-grandmother worked in the mills, my mom even worked in the mills. And, we have this community of people who have built everything that we have today. And they went through the Biddeford school system. And so, some people will discount our school system, but they're wrong. We just need to focus on it a little bit more, figure out where the disconnect is, and we can make it better for everybody. I really believe it.
Well,
I can tell by the
yeah.
look on your face, you seem like you don't believe it, but
No, I do believe it. I just love the way you phrased it. I mean, it's this very logical and very
that's why I went to
simple.
law school, because I'm a logical person.
You're
mind
very
works that way.
logical. I mean, no, I'm sitting here and I'm going, wow.
It makes sense.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, like, why don't they have books?
Yeah, books,
How simple is that?
books.
At
That's
the
it.
very least, if I had the money, I would buy books for the school if I could just do it myself.
Yeah, yeah.
And my nephew said they also print off stuff. They make photocopies of all kinds of stuff and give it to the kids. You're going to tell me it's cheaper to photocopy stuff than it is just buy the books? Give me a break. Those
Yeah.
photocopies get used once. The books are used year after year after year. There's a disconnect somewhere there, and we need to figure it out and help the students.
Definitely.
That's our future. I don't think there's anything more important than our teachers, our fire, and our police. Those are the three areas that the government of a city is absolutely responsible for, that they are there to provide the best services possible. That's what the government is meant for. It's meant to help the people, not burden the people. The people are not a piggy bank for the government.
No.
The people are there, and the government is supposed to serve the people. That's the whole purpose behind having our government. And how is it that we're going to spend $27 million on a parking garage, but our students don't have books? I think our priorities are a little
off.
askew.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that just blows me away.
You didn't know that.
I didn't know that. No, I didn't.
And I know it because my nephew, I wouldn't have known that if he hadn't told me.
I mean, you have a very strong background in communication.
Yeah. So I did in the military. And
Yeah.
started when I was 12.
And you were interviewing right before the show started. Jason and I were talking about people he had interviewed, and Hillary Clinton was one of them. Would you tell the audience what you communicated and interviewed, and you have a feel of so many different levels of life?
I've seen a lot of different things.
I want the audience to know that.
Well, my job, I guess, is that what you want to know about when I was in the Air Force?
Yeah.
So I did radio a lot because I'd already done radio when I was a kid. I grew up, I loved it. Plus, I always used to joke I had a great face for radio. And so, but then part of what we do is we do different things. And so we also do television. And so I got to anchor Air Force television news, which was really cool. I got to do that right before I got out. And that was seen in 168 countries worldwide, and all the naval ships at sea at the same time. So more people just see my mug every day than Anderson Cooper. And that's cool. I got clips of it. I had a lot of fun. But when I was out as a reporter, going out, basically what we would do is we'd go out to, say, the flight line, since I was in the Air Force, and I'd go talk to the guys that are working, in electronics, for instance, on the aircraft, in the avionics, and I'd go ask them, what's your job about? They can't talk about, obviously, some stuff.
Yeah.
But I got to know all the different jobs. So a military base is essentially its own community. It is self-sufficient. It has its own water, its own power. It's everything within that base. If we needed to shut those gates and cut everybody else off, we can survive.
Yeah.
And so I got to see cooks, maintenance people. I've interviewed generals, like you said, Hillary Clinton, Tipper Gore, George W. Bush, generals, 4-star generals. I can't even tell you how many I've interviewed. Secretary of the different services, Secretary of Army Louis Caldera, for instance. My first assignment in Panama. And here I am, just a little 20-year-old kid, about this big around, and I'm interviewing the Secretary of the Army.
Yeah.
And that's an appointed position. That's a pretty important position. And so I got to see everything from, from where I was at my level which I started off as an E1 because I had no college when I went in. I graduated from high school. I spent 2 years doing radio locally on R96, and then I went in the military. And so from my level, I got to interview 4-star generals. And I was only an E4, which I don't know if you're familiar with the military rank scale, but
yeah, go ahead.
I was only an E4 when I was interviewing Hillary Clinton. And here's the First Lady of the United States, and I'm asking her questions. Meanwhile, channel, ABC and NBC and they're all trying to get an interview with her, and she won't talk to them, but she's talking to me. And it was all because they all wanted to know about Monica Lewinsky at the time.
Yeah.
I just asked her to say, have a nice weekend for the troops. She turned right around and started answering my questions, got right up in the camera, and she's like, I want the troops to know, thank you so much for all you're doing, just going on and on and on. And I asked her some questions, and she answered those, and then she looks at me, she goes, is that good? I said, yes, ma'am, thank you so much. And she turned around and she left, and then Christiane Amanpour asked me, she said, so how'd you get her to answer that? And I said, I just asked her to say, have a nice weekend for the troops.
Yeah.
That was it. And so it was really cool that, I got to experience a lot of these things. And by getting to see all the different jobs that it takes, that is a city. A military base is absolutely a city. And I've seen how it runs from the bottom to the top. I've seen how the general has to manage the budget,
Yeah.
how they have to make sure that each department has what they need. Later on in my career, when I was back in the States finally, I had an operations manager position. So my job at that point was go out to the broadcast detachments around the world, figure out what they need to make their job more efficient, and figure out how to save money. And that's what I did. I was really good at going in, finding what needed to be fixed, and making changes that saved government money. And I really enjoyed that because I'm paying taxes too. When you're in the military, you're still paying taxes. So every penny that the military spends, I'm contributing to that.
Yeah.
Just like living in the city, every penny the city spends, we're all contributing to that.
Yeah.
Whether you rent or buy, you're still contributing, because if you're renting, part of the cost of your rent is based on the property taxes your landlord pays.
Yeah.
So the property taxes affect everybody. And I want to take that same view to City Hall and look at things and say, okay, how do we make this better? We can run this more efficient. If we combine this department and this department together, can't we save money? If you've got 2 levels of everything but the departments work similarly,
Yeah.
maybe we can find a way to save money there. Maybe there's a way to share resources between departments. There's got to be ways to save money, and government is notorious for wasting money. We know that. And we need to control our mill rate because our seniors.
Yeah.
I just lost my last grandmother last summer in August, and she was so important to me. And I was trying to study for the bar exam last summer, and
Yeah.
I was spending hours and hours with her, taking care of her, and I couldn't study when I was with her,
Yeah.
and then I had to sleep other times. So,
Right.
but you know what? Every moment I spent with her was so amazing because I loved my grandparents.
Sure.
I was lucky where my parents made my grandparents important to my sister and I. Every Saturday was my mom's parents. Every Sunday was my dad's parents growing up. And so we'd have lunch with my mom's parents. We'd have dinner with my dad's parents. And our grandparents were always so important. And, in many ways, my grandfather, my mom's dad, was at more of my Little League games and my Pee Wee football games than my dad was because my dad was working.
Yeah.
And my grandfather would finish work in Sanford, drive all the way to Biddeford to come watch the game. I know I kind of go off on different tangents, but
No, I love this. I love this.
but those are the things that I think have helped shape me because,
You too.
and I was a paper boy, and so I grew up at the corner of Wilson and Prospect. It's a big gray and white salt box house that my great-great-uncle Tony built with his father. And so I had, Laurier, Wilson, DuPont, Westfield, Clarendon, and Harrison, and then I had houses on Prospect. And that was my paper route. As a matter of fact, just this morning, Mr. Bennett reached out to me. He said, did you grow up on Prospect? I said, yes. I said, were you the red house between Wilson and DuPont? He said, yes, I was. And I still remembered him. When they first moved in, I was their new paper boy. And
Wow.
I was Mr. Curate's paper boy at the high school. I was Jim Godboom's paper boy too, because there was the same house. And, I learned so much growing up there because we had a lot of elderly. When Jim and Lynn moved in,
Yeah,
they
yeah.
were really young compared to the people around. And same with the Curates. When they moved in, they were really young compared to all the people living around them. And my mother always jokes that she hated Friday and Saturday because throughout the week, I would deliver the newspapers. It'd take me 20 minutes to go out and do my paper route. Friday and Saturday was 3 to 4 hours, because you may have noticed I like to talk.
Which is great. No.
But so when I had my paper route, Mr. Bergeron, for instance, on Westfield, he loved the Tigers like everybody else did, but he would bet me $1 every week the Tigers were going to lose. More than likely, we were going to win. Coach Landry, they didn't lose very often.
No, no.
And so anyway, so he knew pretty much I was going to win. So he would pay, but then every once in a while we'd lose, and I'd give him the $1 back. And so he taught me a lot of responsibility then, you know? He taught me that if you're going to gamble, it is going to hurt sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And so I kept that lesson. I remembered that. And I just remember sitting down and talking to them. Some of them, Mrs. Netto, she was in a wheelchair. And she had a dog. Her son lived with her. Her dog was named Kilo. So I'd bring over some milk bones for Kilo, and I loved that dog. And then, you know, I'd go upstairs and I'd open her door and go in and bring her the newspaper.
Yeah.
Because she couldn't reach down out of her chair to get it.
Yeah.
Or else I'd leave it up on top of her sill. And one day I went over and she had fallen out of her chair.
Oh.
And I couldn't lift her myself. So I got my friend Ricky, Ricky Robitaille, he owns Louis Pizza.
Okay.
Ricky came with me, and we were able to get her up into her chair. And she was so happy, and it really taught me how to care for the elderly, because there's one thing that's guaranteed in life. We're going to be elderly someday.
Oh, yeah.
If we make it that far.
Yeah.
And we're going to need help. And what you do today, you're paying in advance for when you're going to need it as well.
Exactly.
And I just learned so much empathy for the elderly and respect, because they had so much to teach me. And I don't think people pay enough attention to the elderly and the lessons that they have.
They don't hear the elderly.
No.
They don't hear them.
They dismiss the elderly.
Big time. I mean, if they see that, okay, you're a certain age or whatever, I think a lot of the generation now, even more so, just kind of, they jump over it. Mm-hmm. You know, they're not thinking like you did at your age.
They don't think that far ahead.
Where, oh, you know, maybe I'll stop over. Maybe I'll put the newspaper up higher so she can get it. Mm-hmm. I don't think that thought pattern right now would happen, depending on how the child was raised.
And that's what it boils down to.
Yeah.
I was lucky between my parents and my grandparents. I was just telling Mr. Burnett this morning when we were chatting, I said, I feel so lucky I grew up on Prospect Street.
Yeah.
And just because I had friends around that I'm still, Ricky lived on the next street over. We're still friends today.
Yeah.
And, you know, his parents, they helped raise me too. And I learned lessons from his father, who was a Vietnam vet.
Wow.
And his mom. Yeah. And I just remember, I was so lucky. I really, really was lucky where I grew up. And now I want to help others. We have 50 students in our school, roughly, that are homeless. Did you know that?
I know that, yeah.
Why? How can that even be possible?
How can it be possible?
We have students and veterans sleeping on the street at night. Veterans who've given uncountable amounts to their country, and they're sleeping on the street at night. Children who were just born into that situation. They had no control over where they're at. They're sleeping on the streets. How is that even possible?
I know.
And then they get to school and they don't have books either?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's got to be a focus on, I think we need to redirect our attention to our future, not just how do we help the Mills? How do we make our city better for everybody?
Better. Well, you know, as one of my many jobs, silly me, but I'm kind of empathic. So I pick up sensitivity or somebody's hurting or whatever. And I volunteered to substitute teach one day at the grade school. And I'd never done this before, you know. And so I'm told to go in, be there at 7:30, stand at the door, greet all the students. Before that, I was there early, and they brought in this big container of milk and cereal and all this for the kids to eat breakfast. Now, I haven't been in the school system in years.
Me either.
So I'm, you know, wow, you know, kids come in. Some of them were kind of, you know, you could tell they had a rough night. And I'm watching all this, and they're grabbing the cereal, they're grabbing the milk. And I'm watching this, and this one boy said to me, he says, "He took 3 and I'm hungry." I thought my heart was going to break in 1,000 pieces. And that was in the grade school level?
Well, during the summer over at Kennedy, they provide food for kids for breakfast and lunch. My mom just retired from the intermediate school. She ran the kitchen there a couple decades.
Yeah.
And it used to break her heart because some students, it's not the kid's fault, but
No.
if they owe money on their account, you know, for whatever reason it is, if they don't have enough money in their account, they're supposed to give them a cheese sandwich.
Yeah.
And my mom couldn't do it. Her and most of the lunch ladies there, they will buy students lunch. I mean, they can't do it every day, but
No.
they will, out of their own pockets, buy lunch, just like the teachers. The teachers buy stuff for the students all the time. I was speaking with one teacher who's been around for a couple of decades here at our school, and she has bought coats for kids in the winter.
Believe it.
If you teach or you work in the school system, you have to be a compassionate person.
Yeah.
And I would love to see more of that compassion outside the schools. And I think toward the elderly, that's one of our big things we need to do.
Yeah.
We need to take care of, that's what the government's job is to take care of people,
yeah.
not to be landlords.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, what you're talking about, I've seen around here quite a bit. It's sad. It just breaks your heart. And I'm listening to you, and I'm so happy you're on the show today. So the audience can understand where you're coming from. They know your background. They know how you were raised. The tone in your voice, the way you express things. It's from a part of you which is compassion and street sense.
I've never been told I have street sense before.
You have street sense. You have book sense.
I definitely had that.
I know that. But you have street sense. See, I have street sense.
Probably from what I've seen outside the U.S. too.
Yeah, that's what brought it in, which makes a nice marriage of, okay, we have logic, but in the real life, in the real world, this is what's going on.
I got a survey yesterday or the day before. Yesterday was Monday, so it would have been Saturday. They tried to deliver it. I was certified, I wasn't home. But anyways, it's from the Maine Education Association, and they wanted to ask the different candidates questions about how they feel about different things. And one of the questions that struck me, and when I was answering it, I even said right on, I said, this answer seems so obvious, how could you answer any other way, was, would you allow frontline teachers, educators, to express their opinion or be a part of the planning process for things that involve the school? Apparently that doesn't happen normally. And so that just blew my mind. I thought, who's the expert in this field? I'm not an expert educator. I mean, I was in Ed Tech 3 as well. I got my certification to substitute teach.
Yeah.
But the teachers that are there every day, they're the ones that know what the students need. They know that they don't have books. They know which students are struggling the most. They know which students have something at home that could be affecting their learning, or the fact they're not eating properly because they don't have right nutrition at home. Those are the people you want to come talk to you and say, here's what we need. We don't need this. Yeah, that looks really pretty, and that, you know, it looks so cool in pictures. But we don't have books for the students. Why do we need to make something pretty if the students don't have books? That's the basic tenet of a school. And, you know, vice versa. If you're looking at the fire department, I got to spend, I think, 4 hours with the fire department one day.
Really?
Chief Gagne was great. He told me stuff all about, you know, how it works and everything. And I've been an on-call firefighter when I was a kid. I applied and I got the on-call position, but I never got called. And then I went in the military, so I had to give it up. But you know, sitting there with the fire department and understanding that they haven't had a contract in 18 months. They can't recruit people right now because the city council has made it so that if you start as a firefighter now, you have to work 12-hour shifts on days for 3 months, then 12 hours at night for 3 months, then 12 hours on days for 3 months, which is completely unheard of. Everywhere else, they do 24-hour shifts. That's how firefighters work because they get called in the middle of the night, they get called during the day. Our little fire station is the busiest in the whole state. The firehouse itself is the busiest house in the state. They answer off 5,200 calls a year. That's 100 calls a week. And they're doing it with 7 people on staff at a time. When there's more than one emergency, so what we have to do is we have to call Saco, Old Orchard, Scarborough, Arundel, Goodwin's Mills, and I want to say that there was someone else that helps too, but we get mutual aid. So all the fire departments provide mutual aid, but we don't get to reciprocate because we have to keep calling everybody else. So the people in Arundel are paying for our fire and rescue. The people in Saco, Old Orchard, they're paying for our fire and rescue service. Hit the microphone.
It's okay.
I talked my hand, sorry. But they're paying for our fire and rescue service. And I wonder if their taxpayers realize that. Because we're not able to provide the mutual aid back to them. So if Arundel needs help, they need to call Kennebunk. Because Biddeford's too short-staffed. We can't send somebody over to help them right now. And we live on a community where we have the ocean and the river. Talk about being lucky to have both of those. And yet we don't have a boat that we can rescue people in the ocean with. It's $35,000 for the Zodiac. That's all the chief wants. $35,000 for a boat. We just spent over $120,000 repaving 2 parking lots, and we're giving them to the parking garage. The developers are going to get them. Just going to give them to them. Say, here, yes, we've spent $300,000 on these lots already in the past year, but we're going to give it to you. But we can't get $35,000 for a boat to save people's lives. That's what, when I saw that question from Maine Educators Association, this is what came in my mind is, you want to know how to run the fire department, you ask the fire chief. That's why the chief is there.
Yeah.
Because the chief is an expert in running the fire department, and they're an administrator. You want to know how to run the school system, you talk to first the superintendent, but then you have to get the people on the front lines involved. I sat down with the fire department and had lunch with them. And so one of the rules they had when we sat down, they said, at this table, there's no rank. At the dinner, lunch table, they said, there's no rank, everybody speaks freely.
Right.
And so I got to hear from the newest firefighter to the most seasoned firefighter who's getting ready to retire, some of the things that they have to deal with on a daily basis. And talk about eye-opening. Who doesn't love the fire department? Everybody loves the fire department. And they do outreach. When they're not responding to calls, they're actually doing outreach to the schools and teaching CPR classes and all these other things. And they're in a building that's 30 years old, and they maintain it pretty much themselves. And you would never know unless you sit down and talk to the firefighters what they're doing on the front lines. And that's how you figure out what the fire department needs. You talk to people doing the job every day. You talk to the chief and get the overarching view, but then you've got to talk to the people doing the job. You talk to the superintendent of the schools, you're going to get an overarching view of the whole school system. But if you want to know what's going on in the classroom and which students need the most help, you talk to the teachers.
Yeah.
Because the teachers
They're
know
on the front
more
line.
than, they know way more than the superintendent does about what's going on in the schools. Superintendent has a view from up here. You can't have a view from up there. You've got to
No,
get.
you have to be in the middle of everything.
And that's what I learned in the military, because I got to go to I got to see what the police were like, the military police, because I went and did stories on them. I followed them around. When I was in Panama, we had an agreement with the Panamanian police where we would do what we called downtown patrols. So we'd go pick up a Panamanian cop, and the Panamanian cop would go with us so we could go into the bars where the GIs frequented the most. And we'd walk in, and you'd have the Air Force security police right there along with the Panamanian police. So this way, the GIs knew, don't act up.
Yeah.
We got the Panamanian police with us, they can arrest you, and you belong to us, so we can arrest you too.
Right.
And it was a great interaction, but I would have never known how that worked if I didn't actually go spend time with them.
Yeah.
And I spent time with the fire department. Obviously, I like the fire department. I wore the Sparky suit.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I posted a video of that. I did a news story where I wore the Sparky suit. But, I don't know. The first thing I'd want to do, I want to do the audit, but day one, I just want to go meet everybody.
Yeah.
Go shake hands, go to Public Works, go meet with Jeff and say, Jeff,
Yeah.
show me what you do every day.
Yeah.
Show me what your people are doing every day to keep our city running.
Well, I was looking at your brochure here.
Yeah.
See if we can get that on camera. There we go, Steve. And you say here, people first.
Absolutely.
And that's what we've been talking about.
That's what the government's job is.
Yeah, the people first. Elder care, and improvement in schools. I mean,
Fiscal responsibility.
Yeah, everything.
That helps everything.
It does. And
smarter development.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, you're a people person.
Yeah.
You are. And so am I, even though I wanted to be a recluse.
Well, I'll show you something that, I don't know if the elderly like tattoos, but on my arm, it actually says, "We the people."
Oh, wow.
And I had that tattooed on there years ago.
Wow.
Because that means a lot to me.
Yeah.
All my tattoos are military
Yeah.
tattoos. That one, it's we the people, because that's always the first thing that I think of. This whole country was formed because of the way that we were treated by the king. And King George was abusing us, basically. You know, he turned us into a piggy bank.
Yeah.
And I don't want to see that happen to the city. And that's how I feel it's become, is the citizens have become a piggy bank
Yeah.
for the municipal government. And it shouldn't be. Their whole purpose is to serve the people. And today, this morning, I got to meet with Biddeford Housing Authority with Guy Gagnon.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't even realize that they weren't part of the city. They're a nonprofit.
Oh.
And we started talking about different ideas that we both had. One, for the students. I really want to find a way to help these homeless students. There's no reason why these kids should be homeless. Mm-hmm. In a city that's collecting the taxes we're collecting, how are these kids homeless? And so that's a big issue for me. And family housing. We keep hearing about all these developments going on, but they're all one-bedroom apartments or studios. What about the families that are being displaced? There's a woman that contacted me, and her 10-year-old son are staying at Shamrock Campground right now in a tent. So right before school started, we were talking, and she went somewhere else to go look for a job and didn't get it. So that's where they're staying right now. And so when the hurricane was coming up the coast and stuff, I said, come over to my house. I live right around the corner.
Yeah.
I said, come to my house. Don't stay out in the tent during this.
Yeah.
But how is that even possible? You know, the place she was living got bought, and now they're turning into luxury condos. So the gentrification has pushed her out, and that's what we were talking about, Guy and I, this morning, was because of the gentrification going on downtown, these displaced families need a place to live. We need more affordable family housing. And he has some great ideas, and so we were brainstorming off of each other this morning about some different things that we could do. And one thing that he told me about was, if we give Biddeford Housing Authority a piece of land, which the city owns a lot of land that it shouldn't, if we just give them a piece of land, they can get 100% financing for it between grants and loans through the state. And so they could build affordable family housing. And they have a pilot program which is similar to what UNE has. So UNE doesn't pay property taxes on the gazillion dollars worth of property they own. They pay $50,000 a year, that's it.
Yeah.
Doesn't even cover the ambulance responses to go rescue the kids out of their dorm rooms on the weekends.
Exactly.
But anyways, that's what Biddeford Housing Authority has, is a pilot program. It's called Payment in Lieu of Taxes. So they give 2% of the income they generate from that property to the city. So we wouldn't collect tax revenue, but when the city owns it, we're not collecting any tax revenue. This would be some revenue, and it would provide affordable housing to families. To me, that's a no-brainer. We've got all this property we're not collecting taxes on anyway. We could get something off of it, and we help something, we help someone like this lady that I've been talking about, that her son is going to school now, and he's sleeping in a tent at night. How is that fair when we have the resources?
I know. And my question is, too, when I think about that and that child sleeping in a tent, and there's so many more like that family.
She said there's a lot of families there right now that have been displaced recently.
Yeah.
And they close at the end of the month.
I mean, this is an emergency.
Yeah, winter's coming.
This is not something that, you can process and go through and go back and forth. This is an emergency. Mm-hmm. I mean, I know we have our food shelters.
Yep.
We have Stone Soup and all of that. Some of them are not open all day, all night.
Right.
So to do something quickly to help these people, what is there?
Well, we have Seeds of Hope. Reverend Shirley is great.
Oh, she's great. I've had her on the show.
Okay, good. She does a lot of good for people downtown.
Yeah, she's great.
Some people just don't know where they can go for help.
I know.
And it's a matter of reaching out to people. It's a matter of going out and saying, hi, I see that, maybe you could use a little bit of help. Mm-hmm. Can I help you? Mm-hmm. That sometimes it's all it takes. Yeah. Or not even using the word help, because some people don't want to be helped. Just walk up to somebody and say, how's it going? And you just start having a conversation. Yeah. And as one thing leads to another, then you finally say something like, well, I think you might be able to go here, and they might be able to do something for you. Mm-hmm. Guy was telling me this morning that for a Section 8 housing voucher, it's a 6-year wait. Oh, my God. So for somebody who can't afford their home that's trying to get that voucher, which you can take that voucher and go anywhere, basically. The state will pay for that voucher. so they could find housing. But it's a 6-year wait to get there. These people living out in tents right now at Shamrock Campground cannot wait 6 years to get housing.
No.
He told me that basically we're about 25 years behind where we should be for family housing, for keeping up and ensuring that these families are protected and that we have provided enough affordable housing for them. I think that's appalling that we've had essentially the same people running our government for 40 years now, and in that whole time, they have not been able to provide affordable family housing. That, to me, seems really disturbing. I mean, I don't understand how something is more important than the families in our city and taking care of them. I don't know, it seems like 3 Lincoln gets a lot of attention from when they built Merck to buying it, even though they were leaving, and then to tearing it down. And Councilor Swanton made a comment at the council meeting last week. He said that when we bought it 7 years ago, he wanted to put a for sale sign up there. And the mayor said no.
Yeah.
The plan was always to build a parking garage. So for 7 years, we've got no tax revenue off of it.
Yeah.
$6.65 million we paid for it. So that's basically $14 million we've already lost in just 7 years. How many affordable family homes can we build for $14 million?
Yeah.
I look at that and that really angers me because I think they were leaving. And then some people will say, well, we didn't want another incinerator to come in. Well, doesn't the city control the business
What
permits?
comes in and goes out.
Yeah. So I don't buy that argument one bit. If they can make things so difficult that other developers can't build anything, they surely could have said, we don't want an incinerator anymore. It's done.
Yeah.
But anyways, I look at that and I think, where are our priorities? That's $1 million a year we've lost in tax revenue off of Merck, which I'm glad it's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
It needed to go. It should have never been built in the first place. But that's what's happened. We've had the same people there for 40 years, in and out, in and out, in and out. And so they bring the projects in, then they take credit for taking the projects out. And in the meantime, we've lost $14 million the last 7 years. If we would have sold that land back then, somebody would have bought it.
Yeah.
I've spoken with developers who will come in, they'll buy the entire tract of land. One even said that they actually asked the city to do that, and the city said no. The city would not sell the tract of land to them. And
What was the reason? Didn't want to.
they didn't want to. And so instead, they were focused on building this empty garage. And originally they talked about the garage and these 2 towers next to it, and that the towers were going to go up at the same time. Not now. The first tower won't even begin construction until the garage is done. So if you park in that garage, your car's going to be all dusty and dirty every day if they're doing construction right next door. And who's actually going to be parking there if they don't have the towers built? It's just, I don't know, I mean, it is a vision for the city. It's just tunnel vision. It's not an open view saying, what can we do? You let a developer buy it, we start collecting taxes the very same day.
Yeah, yeah.
For 7 years, we've gotten no tax revenue out of it. And now you look at River Dam, for the river, they're trying to put the Riverwalk through there. You realize that we're giving them $2.1 million? I can tell by your eyes you had no idea. And it's right there in the paperwork. We bought their building a couple weeks ago for $10. Once we acquired it, now we can get a brownstone grant. It's a EPA grant to abate the asbestos. So we're going to get the $200,000 from the Brownsfield grant. We're going to sink that into their building, get rid of asbestos for them. They're supposed to kick in some too. After we've taken their asbestos out, then we sell the building back to them for $10, if we can get $10 for it. I don't know. But the way we make deals, it's probably going to get like 50 cents, but because that seems to be the way our deals work. But anyways, after that, then we're going to give them $500,000 to cut the back section of the building off by the river. That's our money. $500,000 for that building. What can we do with $500,000? I bet we could provide a lot of affordable family housing, for one thing.
Oh, yeah.
Then, for 30 years, they're not going to pay property taxes. I can tell by your eyes you didn't see that in the documents either.
Boy, I need a crystal ball over here.
No, you don't need a crystal ball. You just have to try to read through the mountains of stuff.
The mountains of stuff.
I went to law school because I like doing that stuff,
Yeah.
So I read through it and I look at these deals and I say, who on earth is negotiating this stuff? I mean, are they on our side or theirs? This parking garage. So if you look at it, we were told it wouldn't take any property tax money.
Yeah.
The parking garage. For the first 10 years, that's the next line that they don't ever repeat, but it is in there. After 10 years, there's no guarantee it won't be property taxes. The other thing is the way TIFs work, You can only use them for specific items,
Yeah.
which is one of the reasons why they want to do the garage, because they can't use the TIF to fix roads out on Route 1.
Yeah.
So instead, if you create something with the TIF money that you're allowed to, then the general taxes you collect can then be used on other things. But that general taxes comes out of your pocket and mine, because as it increases the value around us, our taxes go up. They're not paying taxes for 30 years. So they're not going to contribute. You and I, our taxes go up. That's where they get the extra money. In addition, the first year after the garage is built, we're going to pay $650,000 to the developer that first year. Then it goes to $750, $850, so on and so forth, up to $1 million. It caps at $1 million. So the first 10 years, we're going to give them $8.5 million. At year 10, we can buy the property off. Well, we're going to own the land, so they'll be paying no property taxes too. So then we buy the structure at fair market value. So if it's worth $40 million in 10 years, how much do we have to pay for that building? $40 million. On top of the $8.5 million we've already given them, and now we're also giving them all the surface lots. So we put those parking meters in, we resurfaced those 2 lots, we've done all this work, we're going to give it to them as part of the deal. They get to collect all the revenue off those lots, which the lawsuit that I had filed is no longer valid at that point, because a constitutional challenge is only against the government. It's not against a private entity. So even though we have a referendum that says no parking meters, it wouldn't apply to a private parking lot. So instead of giving you a parking ticket, they do like they do in Portland. They boot you. They put a boot on your car. You have to pay $125 to have them come remove the boot, versus getting a parking ticket and then paying it and getting on with your day.
Right.
You have to wait for them on their schedule. And then they collect all this revenue. So they get the revenue off the parking lots. They get the revenue off the parking garage. They get $8.5 million from us. And then at year 10, we get to buy it from them at fair market value. That's why I say, who's negotiating these deals? Are they negotiating for us or for the other side? Because it's a one-way deal. And then if we want to keep financing it at year 10, then we can finance for 15 more years with them, but then that can come out of property taxes. And during the 10-year window, if they want to raise the cost per hour up to, say, $7 an hour or $10 an hour, we have the option to use taxpayer money to buy down the rate. That's in there as well. I could tell by your eyes you didn't know that either. So if you look at the documents, one of the things we can do is we buy down the rate. So say they want to go to $10 an hour, but we said, well, you can go to $5. So what happens at that point is they're going to say, well, here's what it is. Over the next year, we would bring in an extra $2 million worth of revenue if we went to $10 an hour versus the $5. At that point, the city can then say, well, we'll give you the $2 million and you keep the price at $5. That's in the contract. So there's a lot of things in there that I really disagree with. And people keep saying, oh, you're such anti-garage. No, I'm not. I'm anti this deal. I don't like this deal. It is not fair to the citizens. You know, the whole concept that it's going to be only TIF money is not true, because that $650 in that first year is the cost of a new ambulance. So if the fire department, which does need a new ambulance, needs that ambulance within that whole 10-year window, we could use that TIF money to buy that ambulance, because the ambulance serves the TIF district.
Yeah.
Instead, it comes out of here. It's a shell game. So if we're using the $650 to pay for the garage that first year when there's nobody parking in it, we have to use tax money to buy that ambulance. And the taxes went up to $19.98 this year. And one of the meetings, they were talking about the Hills Beach fire station and how they wanted to give that, and they were trying to look at the money, and they would say, well, if we got X amount of dollars, like $350, I think they said, then that would be the increase in the mill rate for this year. So now the mill rate would actually go up double what it did this year just to buy a fire truck, which we could have bought instead out of the TIF money and let the developers build their own garage. And they try saying, well, the developers won't build their own garage. Yes, they will. If somebody's going to build a big campus there on those 8 acres of land, they know they have to provide parking. And part of it is the city waiving the parking requirements. Allegedly, we don't have enough parking downtown, yet just a couple of weeks ago, they waived 30 parking spaces. So when somebody builds an apartment, they're supposed to provide 2 parking spaces. It's in the ordinance. But then for some reason, the city keeps saying, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Well, how can we have a parking problem, but then be able to say, you don't have to provide your own parking. Go ahead, build what you want to build. They're creating their own problem that they're trying to solve by taxing the citizens more, which doesn't make sense to me. That's the logic.
That's the logic. There it is. Oh my.
If you make people provide their own parking, or we have the green lot now, which is just for monthly parking, just for permits. Well, if somebody wants to build an apartment, then you require them to rent X number of spaces in that lot to provide for their tenants.
Yeah.
Why are they not doing that?
Oh my God.
I don't understand why we'd create a problem that we have to solve. Solve the problem first.
Wow.
So a garage is not a bad idea. One of the developers I spoke with promised me, which I need to see it in writing, but if they built their development,
Yeah.
they would provide enough parking, not 640 spaces, but enough parking for the mills to rent spaces from them. So this way they would still be parking for River Dam, which we're
Yeah.
giving the $2.1 million to, which there's a lot of affordable housing we could provide for that too.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I asked about that, I said, why are we doing this? They said because, Jim Bennett said it was because every other developer that looked at it couldn't make the numbers work without the city help. I don't believe that for 1 minute. If somebody really wants to develop it, they will develop it. They don't need us to give them credit enhancements and $500,000 to tear off part of their building and go out and get $200,000 from the federal government to take out the asbestos for them. What a great deal. We're going to let the city do all the work and then we're just going to sit back and reap the profits and not have to pay property taxes on it? Because once you're in that TIF district,
Yeah.
all the increase in those taxes is sheltered. And so if we have a credit enhancement that says you're not going to pay that, if before the building ends up in the TIF district, the taxes are $100 a year because it's not worth much, then when the building's worth $100 million, they're still paying $100 a year.
Okay.
These are the things I can't say at the meetings because I only have 5 minutes.
I know!
Or 3 minutes, and so I'm trying to rush through as fast as I can.
And we're just about out of time.
Oh, really? I'm sorry, I talk a lot.
No, no, that's great. I wanted you to say and do exactly what you did because so people know you.
Thanks for the opportunity.
And they know where you're coming from and your background because that's very important for people.
I grew up here. I love this city.
I know.
I don't want people to have to leave.
And just hearing your tone of voice and hearing the way you describe neighbors, it shows. It definitely shows.
One more quick story?
Go.
Okay. So Mr. and Mrs. Lemarand, they lived across the street from me. He was a World War II vet.
Yeah.
I used to watch him fold down his flagpole every spring and paint it all white so it looked nice for the whole summer. And he always flew his flag. And I called them Meme and Pepe across the street. One morning when I was young, my mom woke up and I was gone. She couldn't find me. She's running around the house, thinks I got kidnapped or something in the middle of the night. Mrs. Lemarand called her and said, if you're looking for Jason, he's over here having breakfast. He was hungry and wanted pancakes, so he came and woke me up. I went over, I rang the doorbell till they woke up. I asked her to make me pancakes. So she made them for me and I sat there having breakfast. And I used to go over and help them shovel and snowblow when we had a snowblower. And their grandson reached out to me this past spring.
Yeah.
And when I worked at R96, Regulate by Nate Dogg,
Yeah,
it was a
yeah.
popular song. And I had the cassette, and I'd given it to him one summer. He still had it. He came up here on vacation with his family, reached out to me, and we got together and had a couple beers, and he gave me that cassette.
Oh my goodness.
He has kept it all this time, and he said, you made a big difference in my life then, but his grandparents made a huge difference in my life too.
Yeah.
That's what
That's
the
the-
community is. You
that's the
help each
community.
other.
Yeah.
And so here it is, 30 years later, and he still had this cassette. Has that song really been out for 30 years? I think it has been. Holy smokes. We're pretty close to it, I bet.
Yeah.
And so anyways, you know, that's where I grew up in
That's-
Prospect.
yeah,
And that's
yeah.
why I loved the place I grew up. And I don't know, I love Biddeford, and I did a lot growing up here. And it absolutely shaped me into who I am today, is the community that I had around me.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of new people coming in that don't understand that because they haven't had the chance to experience it yet.
Right, right.
And I just think that we need to get back to that and care about the community, and we need to take care of our community, which is number one. It's the kids. It starts with the kids.
Yeah.
If the students don't have the books, how do we expect them to succeed and come back and help Biddeford succeed more? We've got to provide them with books.
Yeah.
That's a basic tenet. So I know we're out of time, and I
Oh,
could talk
Jason,
for hours.
Thank you so
Thank you
much
for inviting me
being
over.
on the show.
Thank
and,
you.
And
I'd love to come back sometime.
I'd love you to come back.
Talk about some other things, and I
Absolutely.
would love to do a debate too. I don't know if you guys can help out with that.
I'm sure we could. Yeah.
Even if it's not a debate, if it's just a Q&A.
Okay.
One idea that we had was maybe doing it somewhere where we could charge a $5 donation and give it to the food pantry.
Okay.
So, I mean, I don't know
can
how
do
it would
that.
work out, but I'd really love to be able to do something like that where we could actually talk about these issues.
Okay.
And if it's just a Q&A with just me, that's fine too. I'll sit there and just answer questions for hours.
All right. Well, then we need to work on this.
Absolutely.
We need to move on this. I'm a New Yorker. We got to move.
I'm from Biddeford. We moved too.
Yeah.
We're a mill town.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
Jason,
make things
thank
happen.
you again.
Thank you so much.
And I want to thank everybody for watching the show today. Have a good rest of the week or weekend, and we will see you soon. Bye-bye.